Hi everyone, welcome to Watch It Played. My name is Rodney Smith, and in this video we're going to learn the 2 to 4 player game, Bosk, designed by Daryl Andrews and Erica Bouyeris and published by Floodgate Games, who helped sponsor this video. Here, you're a tree. Well, a collection of trees, actually. Trees growing in a beautiful national park. And then you'll shed your leaves in patterns all over the forest floor. Sounds quite lovely, doesn't it? But even in the forest, there's competition, as we'll see. So, join me at the table, and let's learn how to play. To set up, you'll put this park board in the center of the play area with this side face up if you have just 2 players, or this side if you have 3 or 4. In a 3-player game, as we're setting up here, you'll treat this white line as the actual edge of the board. But if you have 4 players, you'll use the entire area. Each player now chooses a species of tree, taking its matching colored trees, leaf tiles, tokens, and squirrel. This win board and win token you can set to the side to be used later, and this score track should be set somewhere nearby with a leaf token from each player set beside it. Now pick a first player randomly and give them this hiker as a reminder. And that's the setup. In Bosk, you'll be growing your trees in a national park, and you'll earn points in 2 different ways. 1, based on how your trees are arranged in the park, and 2, based on how the leaves fall from them. The game is played over 4 seasons, starting in spring, and during spring, players will take turns starting with the first player and then going clockwise around and around the table. On your turn, you'll take any one of your trees not currently on the board and place it on any empty intersection. That is, any spot where 2 lines cross. And this even includes any of the water areas. The only exception is that you cannot place trees on the outside edge of the play area, which in a 3-player game is this white border here. So I cannot place in a location like this. Also, once you've placed a tree, you cannot move it. And so players will continue, one after the other, placing their trees onto the board. Once everyone has placed all of their trees, spring ends, and now it's time for summer. And rather than try to explain to you what you should be considering about where and why you'll want to place your trees in certain spots, let's just go through the summer round, because here your trees will be scored, and that will really explain to you what you need to consider when placing your trees. In summer, visitors are traveling through the park and admiring the various trees that we've grown. And so one by one, you'll check each trail row and add up the values printed at the top of each player's trees there, awarding points according to this summer table that is found here on the back of the rule book. So, for example, on this row, we have no trees, so no points are awarded here. However, on this row, red has a total of 5, yellow has 2, and purple has 1. Now looking at the table, we have 1 player, red, who has the most points, and 1, yellow, who has the second most. So as shown there, the red player gets 2 points, and the next highest value, yellow, gets 1. As players gain points, they track them on the scoreboard here by moving their marker the appropriate number of spaces. Going to this row, yellow has 3, and both red and purple have 1 each. So we have 1 player in first place, yellow, and 2 or more that are tied for second place. So yellow gets 2 points, and purple and red get nothing. Here, there's only 1 player on this row, purple. So they're automatically in first place, and no one is in second. So as we see on the chart, that means purple gets 3 points. On this row, both yellow and red have the highest values with 4 each, and purple has 2. When 2 or more players are tied in first place, they each get 1 point, and any other players there get nothing. Those are all the scoring possibilities, so go through each row, scoring them as we just explained, and when you're done, you'll go through every column, scoring them in the same way. And once all of the scoring is complete, like I have here, the player with the fewest points will become the start player for autumn. So in this case, the yellow player is going to keep this first player token. And if there had been a tie, then break those ties in clockwise order from the previous start player. Now the wind will start to blow and the leaves will start to fall from the trees as we enter autumn. So let's go back to the table and I'll show you how this round works. Here, the start player puts this wind board's flat edge against any one side of the park that they choose, where it will stay for the rest of the game. And they also place this wind direction marker above the one that's pictured here. Now, beginning with the start player and going clockwise around the table once, each player will take a turn. And on your turn, you'll perform the following steps. First, select any one of your trees with a number here at the top that matches the value shown on the wind direction token space. So in this situation, we'd have to pick a tree with a number 1. Then you choose any one of your leaf tiles to use, and you announce it as your active tile to the other players. The leaves here are numbered from 2 to 8, and there's also a squirrel here, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. This value is the number of tokens that you'll then collect into your hand, and you'll be able to play these during your turn. These are known as your active leaves. And now you'll drop them from your chosen tree, placing one in either of the 2 spaces at its base in the direction that the wind is blowing. So I can put this here or here. I'll place it in this spot. And then your next leaf must go in any one of the 3 spaces directly ahead of the last leaf that you placed, following the direction of the wind. So again, any of these 3 spaces. Then the next leaf must go in any of the next 3 spaces ahead of that leaf, and so on until you run out of leaves in your hand or you reach the edge of the board. If there were any leaves that you could not place, then put those back in the supply, but either way, now remove the tree that you selected and the leaf tile that you chose and return them to the box. Then the next player in clockwise order selects any one of their trees with the same matching value on top, as well as any one of their tiles, collecting that number of leaves to drop. And as leaves fall, eventually you may want to set one of your leaves into a space that has other leaves already there. Because as we'll see, only the leaves in the topmost position of a space will count for final scoring. To help explain how this works, I'm going to set up a situation here that would normally occur later in the game. Now, if the leaf that you're going to cover up is one of your own, there's nothing special that happens. Just place your new leaf on top. However, if the space has an opponent's leaf on top, to put one of yours there, you must be able to discard a leaf from your hand for each other leaf currently in the pile, including any of yours that may be under it. And then you'll have to have at least 1 token left over to be able to set on top. So to go into this space, the red player would need to return 2 leaves from their hand back to their supply, and then add 1 on top. And then they continue to place leaves as normal. After going around the table once like this, the wind will change, and you move this marker to the next space. Now the players must choose one of their value 2 trees, and the wind will blow in this direction from those ones. However, before you begin, the person who played the lowest value tile in the previous round, they become the new start player and will scatter their leaves first. If there had been a tie for the lowest value played, then the closest tied player going clockwise from the start player would break the tie. Either way, rounds of autumn will continue like this, but notice that when the wind marker gets to any one of these 4 spaces, the players will get to pick any one of their available trees to drop leaves from. Also, I mentioned that each player has a squirrel tile, so let's see how this works when it's chosen. Here, the player will still pick one of their trees as required, but instead of putting leaves in their hand, they'll take their squirrel token, and then following the normal rules for leaf placement, they'll set that squirrel within 3 spaces of their chosen tree. And the squirrel can then cover any sized pile of leaves there at no extra cost. And the squirrel itself cannot be moved or covered later. So the players ensure that they will have control of this space when we score it later on. And even though they didn't drop any leaves, the player still removes their selected tree from the board. When checking to see who played the lowest valued leaf tile, so you can pick a new start player for the next round of leaf placement, a squirrel that was played is counted as having a value of 1. The autumn phase will end once you get to the end of this final round, and with the trees all bare, it's time for players to score for covering the most ground in each of the different colored types of terrain. If you look at the board, you'll see there are 8 different regions, each with their own color. And by region, each player totals the number of spaces where either they have their leaves on top or their squirrel. And then the region is scored using the winter table here on the back of the rule book. You'll read this table in the exact same way as you read the table for summer. The only thing that's changed is the number of points you'll get for first and second places. Once every individual region of the board has been scored using that winter table, the player with the most points wins. And in the case of a tie, the tie is broken by the player who is closest in turn order to the final round start player. And that's how you play Bosk. If you have any questions at all about anything you saw here, feel free to put them in the comments below, and I'll gladly answer them as soon as I get a chance. You'll also find forums for discussion, pictures, other videos, and lots more over on the games page at Board Game Geek, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. And if you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a like and subscribing and clicking that little bell icon so you get notifications anytime we post a new video. But until the next video, thanks for watching.